Hey Terrans, welcome to the Bronze to Platinum build. I'm going to be going over the Terran versus Zerg Allin on Habitation Station. If you're a brand new Bronze player, I recommend watching my much earlier Wings of Liberty videos and playing through the campaign, since I won't be explaining all the game terminology or the tech tree or the unit statistics in this series. These low-level builds focus on build order efficiency through hotkey practice and building a cost-efficient composition. The goal is simple. We're going to play efficiently and then use that lead to immediately kill our opponents. This will allow us to go against better players, so we are forced to use more aggressive and complex builds. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our hotkeys menu, which is F10, options, and then hotkeys at the bottom left here. We're going to make sure that all of our hotkeys are on the left side of our keyboard so our hand isn't jumping around. The first one we're going to change is patrol, so just click on the marine, go mouse over the patrol here, and change it from P to Q. And we're also going to change our building liftoff, so click on your command center and change liftoff to F and then landing to F as well. And then save the settings. Alright, to start things off, when you hear me talking about the build, I'm going to be referencing two different things. I'm going to be referencing the supply count at the top, and I may also be referencing the timer down here. If I'm referencing the supply, I'll be saying things like on 9 or on 12, and if I'm referencing the time, I'll be saying things like at 6 minutes or at 6:30 or something like that. That said, we're going to jump right into the build order now. Alright, as you can see, I've already started my first worker and I've already rallied my command center to my minerals. We're going to keep that going until we reach 9 supply at the top, and then we're going to start our wall off at the ramp. It's generally good practice to wall your ramp off in at least all matchups while you're playing my way. This will help you control scouting and rushes. Of course, I'll be going everything on a situation-specific basis in the future. So as you can see now, I've reached 9 out of 11 on the top right there, and I'm rallying that worker right to my natural while I'm continuing to build workers here. Now, all of these builds are very hotkey and time focused. So in order to maintain efficiency, we're going to have to make sure that we're using hotkeys for everything. If you're already like even a silver, gold, or platinum player, you're probably quite familiar with this, but I'm still going to harp on it. Make sure that you have your command center hotkeyed. I use mine on 5, so control 5. I also hotkey different things like my workers and different structures. Make sure that all of your buildings are on hotkeys and you're using hotkeys for everything. There should be no clicking on any of the command cards down here. That's a habit. I'm going to let you build by yourself, and it'll be the only time that I'm going to bring this up and harp on it. We're going to jump right back into the game now, and we're going to start our first depot to wall off the ramp. Throughout all these builds, generally speaking, the worker production will remain constant, so make sure you're always using 5S or whatever to produce your SCVs while you're doing the build. Alright, I'm going to use this first worker here to build our first depot on 10. Because of that little bit of explaining I did, it's going to be a few seconds late. So we're going to be using this worker to build most of our structures. It's going to make things really simple here, and you can see me using my hotkeys to tab quickly in between my command center and my worker. This is just a trick that I use to make sure that I don't visually miss anything, and it kind of gets me in the zone. A lot of people will like spam their selection box and stuff, but I prefer just to use the hotkeys so I can see my whole base at all times. So as soon as that first depot was done, we started our barracks on 12 at the ramp with the same worker, and we're continuing to produce workers here. As soon as we hit 13, we're going to build our refinery. You'll notice that I still am floating a few minerals at the top. This is again just because I missed a few seconds earlier, and this is okay. It's not that big of an inefficiency yet. Now we're just playing a waiting game. We're going to be building another depot with the same SCV that's building this barracks, and we're going to be loading 2 workers into this refinery as soon as possible here. There we go. soon as the barracks is done, we're also going to produce a marine right away. You can see in the middle bottom of the screen I also have the barracks on its own hockey now. As our 17th worker completes, we're going to be upgrading our orbital command and then dropping our mule. Now with the first marine, generally speaking, a Zerg player is going to have an overlord floating around somewhere. It's always best to take a peek around on habitation station. It's usually going to be through the side here. Sometimes they do drone scout as well, as you can see. He didn't walk into my base though. That same worker that finished that depot is going to build a factory right away, right above the barracks here. And we're just going to walk across the map with the marines and be a dick. As soon as the marines are done, we're going to be building a reactor on the barracks as soon as we have 50 gas. And then as soon as that reactor is down, we're going to be throwing up our next gas and grabbing another depot. We're just going to put it on the edge so that we can see any overlords coming into our base. You can see I've got all my buildings on a hotkey, I've got my command center on a hotkey, and I have my army on a hotkey, so I can move my camera quickly in between them all. And we can see a lot of Zergs build Zerglings early. That suggests pool first. We're not going to have to worry about things like that yet, though. Alright, that worker that built the factory is going to build an armory, and we're going to land our factory on that reactor. We're going to start 2 Hellions right away. We're going to keep an eye on our supply as well. We always want to stay 1 depot ahead of supply block. As soon as we have 100 gas, we're going to start a second factory above our barracks. And as you can see, we're approaching the 1 supply depot range in the top right. So we're going to build another one right behind our mineral field here. Our first 2 Hellions have completed, so we're going to start 2 more. We're also going to hold down shift with all of our constructing workers and right click them back to the mineral field so that they don't laze around. We're also going to produce a tech lab on our first barracks here and get +1 armor at the armory. This tech lab is going to be for our second factory. We're going to do a little flotation again here shortly. As you become more familiar with this build, you will be able to be more active on the map and send the Hellions out and do some harass and stuff. We're not going to do that now. You might see that in the future. Now we're going to continually spend our money on siege tanks, Hellbats, and Marines as we can afford them, while keeping our depot production up. And remember, our goal here is just to create a really cost-efficient army composition that the Zerg can't deal with because his lack of skill has forced him into being very inefficient early in the game. Mistakes he might not even realize. You can see the Hellions chasing the Zerglings out. So we're going to keep producing Hellbats and tanks. Very simple, and keeping our depots going. It's all about being efficient here. As you can see, we're just riding our supply limit. We're being really efficient. Constantly producing workers, getting that upgrade, and constantly producing units. It's going really well for us so far. So as soon as we have a cost-effective enough composition at around 2 siege tanks, then we'll take whatever support units we have at the time as well. As you can see, we've got quite the scary little army here. Nothing too hard yet. We haven't had to do any micro, or we haven't had to do any thinking when it comes to scouting. We just rushed those Marines across the map to see what he was up to. Now we're going to grab a few of our workers, right-click the repair button. This will set them to auto-repair, and then we're going to move across the map now. We're going to try and keep our army relatively together, because we don't want to be caught in the middle with our pants down. Because our army has to be together to be cost-effective, so we have to keep that in mind as we're moving across the map. You can see here still I have my army on 1 hotkey, and I have all my production facilities and my command center on another hotkey, and I'm continually producing units and workers. I'm also going to do another little cute tactic here. I'm going to set my tanks to their own hotkey in addition to my army hotkey, which is going to allow me to control them specifically when I fight the Zerg. So as you can see, we're reaching our opponent's map here, and the only thing you really have to consider is valuable ground. We're not going to have to worry too much about microing yet. We just have to make sure that our strong units here, our siege tanks, are able to get a very valuable siege location against the Zerg army. if you siege up down at the bottom here, your Zerg opponent can just charge down the ramp, and you're kind of slowed down and you have to push up the ramp and unsiege your tanks. It's going to delay you quite a bit. So you're going to want to charge straight up the ramp, just do a clean A move, and kill your opponent straight up. So we're going to continue and see what happens here. Like I said, it's just going to be a very simple A move. We're just focusing on build order hotkeys. I'm not even going to bother sieging my tanks. I'm just going to pop back here to check on my base, make sure that all my production facilities are working, and just keep pushing it through. And this was an elite AI, so it's probably equivalent to bronze to platinum players. As you can see, the composition is just too powerful for the Zerg to deal with. I didn't really do any micro, didn't siege up, just moved up the ramp, and he's just going to derp around and die. So that said, that concludes this build order video. I will probably be doing some ladder sessions showcasing this build. I'm going to do an audio companion right after this. I encourage you to send me in your replays of victories or losses, and I can give you pointers to help you win against your opponents. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.